Okay. Benny Malik is with us. That's nice. Okay. Okay. You know how we get tacos?
אוי לפני מי אתם מתארים ומי מתאר אתכם אביכם שבשמיים אביכם שבשמיים אביכם שבשמיים אביכם שבשמיים ואומר מקווה ישראל השם ואומר מקווה ישראל השם מה מקווה מתאר את הטמאים אך הקדוש ברוך הוא מתאר את ישראל מה מקווה מתאר את הטמאים אבל הקדוש ברוך הוא מתאר את ישראל ואומר מקווה ישראל השם ואומר מקווה ישראל השם מה מקווה מתאר את הטמאים אף הקדוש ברוך הוא מתאר את ישראל מה מקווה מתאר את הטמאים אף הקדוש ברוך הוא מתאר את ישראל ואמרתם כל אחי רבי שמעון בר יוחאי ואמרתם כל אחי רבי שמעון צדיקו איש אלוקים קדושו אשרי יין רעשו ישכיל פיו אדוננו בר יוחאי ואמרתם כל אחי רבי שמעון בר יוחאי ואמרתם כל רבי שמעון צדיקו סיני אלוהים יקרא הארי שבחבורו ממנו תצא שעירו אמרתם כהלכי רבי שמעון בר יוחאי ואמרתם כהלכי רבי שמעון צדיקי תורה עשי מגן לנו הימרס עינינו ימליץ טוב בדנו אדוננו בר יוחאי ואמרתם כהלכי רבי שמעון בר יוחאי ואמרתם כהלכי רבי שמעון צדיקי מגן לנו ימליץ טוב עלינו אדוננו בר יוחאי ואמרתם כהלכי רבי שמעון בר יוחאי ואמרתם כהלכי רבי שמעון צדיקי בר יוחאי נמשכת אשריך שמן ששי מחבריך בר יוחאי נמשכת אשריך שמן ששי מחבריך בר יוחאי. Okay, that was our fire. Now it's time for Fabrengen. Covered like Bomer. So, what does it? Covered like Bomer.
Great looking.
All right. So we did the Medura. Beautiful. How's everyone doing?
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem.
Beautiful. Second, let me get my bearings. Okay, so we have the Chavra here. Beautiful. David, how you doing? Call the setup.
Yeah.
Chesky, you there? Who else is around? I don't see anyone. Doctor. Fair, beautiful. All right. Let's begin. Can you hear me?
Yes, Rabbi.
Yofi.
You just said about the parade tomorrow, so another one about the Fabrengen, no?
Right. Tomorrow there'll be a beautiful parade, Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach, and right now we're going to do it in a smaller format. A Fabrengen about what is Lag Bomer. So anyway, I sat down and I must tell you, I was trying to. Lag Bomer is fascinating. I want to share with you some really amazing stuff. Let me just figure out the screen here. Rumi's here. Oh, Shalom Aleichem.
How many people around?
You just missed the Medura.
How many people around?
What?
Oh wow, a lot of people.
Rabbi, take a picture of the fire, put it as your background.
Of what?
Take a picture of the fire and put it as your background.
All right, I don't know how to do that, so next time.
Hopefully those next time.
Rabbi, what are we doing tonight?
Okay, we're going to Fabrengen. I'm just putting everyone on mute for a second.
It's almost bedtime.
Okay, I'm muted, everyone. So that what happens is when you put up a YouTube, otherwise you see everyone all the time. So I hope you can see me over here. And okay, if you would like to say something in the middle, please feel free to unmute, Vakasha. But realize whenever you unmute on the YouTube link, what happens is you, whoever's unmuted comes up. Okay. So I hope you can all hear me. And so let us begin. Okay, well, I Ima b'chutz. 1 second. Ima b'chutz. Ima b'chutz, outside. Ima in the backyard. Okay, אז בוא לאבא. Okay, אז בוא שב על אבא, בוא. בוא. Okay, I'm gonna do a Fabrengen with my son over here. Okay. So let's talk tonight about what exactly is the avodah of Lag Bomer, which means what are we supposed to be doing tonight is Lag Bomer. What are we supposed to be doing? How do we celebrate this Lag Bomer? The Zohar says the following words: Behai chibura diloch, the EU Sefer HaZohar, that is, parentheses, Yifkud Bei min galusa berachami. The Zohar says that with this chibur, with this essay, with this work of yours, which is a Sefer HaZohar, let's check it. Okay, take two. What is the avodah of Lag Bomer? So the Zohar says that behai chibura dilach yifkun beimin galusa berachamim. That with this essay, this book called the Zohar, we will be able to escape Golus. What is the power of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? Lag Bomer is the day of the passing of Rashbi. It's the day that Rabbi Kiva was able to rebuild with 5 Talmidim. One was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He lost 24,000 in the plague. And Lag Bomer, fascinating how it became a celebration in recent years. And in recent generations, as we head closer to the Geula, take a look what happens. It's incredible. Suddenly this Lag Bomer has become it's a major holiday. I mean, this year we got issues with our corona, but even then, in Eretz Yisrael, look how much of an issue it was with Miron. And isn't it amazing to realize how many Jews celebrate this Lag Bomer? There's a work called Pelach Harimon. Pelach Harimon was authored by Reb Hillel Paracha. And Reb Hillel Paracha said in the name of his mashpia, his name was Reb Zalman Zhezmer.
I'm scared.
And he said the vort. He said the vort of the Balatanya. The vort was that for Rashbi, there never was a churban at all. Rashbi never experienced a churban at all. So even though Rashbi lived in a time of persecution, he was living in a time when there's Asar Ruge Malchus who were murdered brutally in his day, and he himself suffers in a cave for 12 and then the 13th year. But for some reason, Rashbi has some nekuda, some point, an understanding and a way to transcend Golus. And that's what the Balatanya was saying, that for Rashbi, there never was a churban in the first place. So when we celebrate his day, and when we align ourselves with our avodah of Rashbi, we too are able to find in our capacity to transcend Golus. Our Golus is very different to what Rashbi had. But if we learn the power of Rashbi and we can access his power, then we'll see how we ourselves can escape our own Golus and the world with it. So first we'll need to understand what is Golus and what it means on a personal level. What we want to do tonight is to take Lag Bomer from an esoteric concept about this holy man called Rashbi, and he was able to be so amazing and so incredible. What does it mean to you and I in our personal lives? So, first and foremost, Golus is a state of mind. It's a state of mind where you are lost and removed from your true essence. That's Golus. We usually speak about Golus in terms of a people exiled from their land and their culture. But what Golus really is it's a state of being disconnected from your inner core. So when you don't have a country and a state and a place to be, you're disconnected. So it's not the country that's the issue, it's the disconnectedness. Rashbi was able to live above Golus. He was able to live above all the states that were distracting him from the truth of Torah. And that's what it means. Rashbi lived in a state that he was above Golus. So what is Rashbi's secret to transcending all Golus? There's a Gemara which cites Rashbi. And let me tell you first and foremost, Rashbi is known everywhere as Teirasai Umnusai. He's known as his immersion in Torah was exemplary. In his own life, the Torah was king. There was nothing else. Torah was his umnus. Torah was his vocation. And what he did was he spread this realization out to the world. So when the Gemara speaks about Rashbi, it says, Harbe also ki Rashbi, but also beyond. Many people attempted to emulate Rashbi, and they were unable to. What is Rashbi? Rashbi had an argument with Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel said, you got to work. A person has to work to make a living. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, Ma pitom, Torah ma tehiyaleh. You don't need to work. A person needs to engage himself day in, day out, all the time in Torah. Nothing else in the world exists, nothing but Torah. Rashbi says, what about work? I don't know. Most people are unable to do what Rashbi is able to do. Rashbi is unique in his ability to do this. Teirasai umnusai. But I want to tell you today, I want to focus on a story that occurs with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and which gives us insight into this idea of Teirasai umnusai. Now, whenever a story is transmitted in Torah, the Torah is not a storybook. When a story is transmitted in Torah, there's a message for us in our lives. It's not a lofty experience of a holy people, but it's rather guidance how we can emulate the avodah of the one in the story. There's a classical story of Rashbi and the rain. Here's how it goes. It's quoted in the Zohar, and it's brought in many, many ma'amarim, and this is the story. One day, Rashbi was immersed in Torah. Rashbi was always immersed in Torah. He was Teirasai umnusai. That was no chiddush. So his talmidim, his students, walk into him. They come in, and they needed rain. So they come in, and their request is for rain. Now they come in, and they sit down. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai understood of his own what they came for. I guess he had that kind of Ruach HaKodesh. And his talmidim begged him, Rashbi, they implied, we need rain. He didn't say anything. What he did was, Rashbi said Torah. He got up and he said Torah, and he explained the following pasuk. The pasuk was, Hine matoi v'manoim sheves achim gam yochad. How beautiful and how wonderful it is when brothers can sit and dwell together. And no connection to rain. And he dwelled on this pasuk, and he said a long maimer on this pasuk, and it rained. The rain came down. That's the story. And tonight, we'll take a look at the story, and we'll see how much impact this story from the Zohar has on our lives, and how much it can help us in our avodah. Because every story in the Torah Shabbal Peh and Oral Torah must be a hira, an instruction for us. Of course, when Rashbi says a halacha, Rashbi is quoted in, basically, we went through this once to figure out exactly how, but it says in every parak in Shas he's quoted. So when he quotes a halacha, well, that makes sense why a halacha is important for us to learn from. But how is it relevant to us when Rashbi, there's a story about, a lofty story about how he brought down rain. I don't know what it means to be terasei umnusa, to be totally immersed in Torah. And I don't know what it means to be able to bring down rain because you were learning Torah. And mind you, nor did Rashbi's peers. Some of the friends of Rashbi were, for example, the other Tanaim, Choyni HaMe'agel. He's a pretty well-known story. Choyni HaMe'agel, once they needed rain. So he was called Choyni, the circle maker. He needs rain. He made a circle in the ground, and he turned to Hashem and he said, I'm not moving from here until it rains. So he davened, he prayed for rain. Rashbi never davened for rain. Even Rabbi Akiva, there's a story about how he davened for rain. Rashbi didn't daven for rain. What he did was, he said Torah, and it had nothing to do with rain, and the rain came down from that. So even his peers were unable to appreciate him. You know, Rashbi's Rebbe, Rabbi Akiva, once said, it is sufficient for you, Rabbi Shimon, that me, Rabbi Akiva, and God, your creator, we know your koyach, we know who you are. Nobody else is able to emulate you. Nobody else had the power of being teirasai u'menusai. What does it mean to be teirasai u'menusai? It means that everything you do flows out from your inner being of Torah. It's a Torah consciousness, if you will. It's not just when you learn Torah. I can't forget when I was in yeshiva in Teres Yisroel in Yerushalayim. So I needed once some letter for the government. I wasn't an Israeli citizen, but they gave me the Israeli letter. And the letter said on it, Torasoi umnusoi, that Torah was my craft. And let me tell you, for Torah to be your craft, you need to be engrossed and immersed in Torah. It's not just learning Torah all day long, it's a Torah consciousness. And we don't have any of that. To us, Torah is something which we do, which we learn, we love Torah, but we don't have a Torah consciousness like Rashbi did. He was in a cave for 12 years, then 13 years, and he never did anything but learning Torah. So most of us, it's going to be very difficult to sit and learn Torah. Bichlal, he was able, to him, the Churban didn't exist. That's what the Balatani explained. Meaning he didn't go into the cave because the Romans forced him to. That was the external reason. He went into a cave because he needed to learn Torah. The best way to learn Torah is being in a cave. What are we to do with this information? There is a Rashbi, if you will, inside each one of us. Like the Gemara says, when it says about Moshe Rabbeinu, you say, Moshe Rabbeinu, you know? Who's Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Rabbeinu says, Ve'ata Yisroel, Ma Hashem elekecha shoel me'imach. What do you think God wants of you? Nothing. All he wants is just to fear and love Hashem. And you wonder, yeah, but I'm not Moshe Rabbeinu. So the explanation is that Legabe Moshe, Niels Azutrasli, to Moshe, it's a simple thing.
We're looking for a real bonfire.
Oh, nice, beautiful. David, we actually have a bonfire outside, and we love your bonfire. Can we hear a little niggin?
This is real Agboy.
Perfect.
No. See, this is how it's done.
Tell you what. All right. Hold on, David, save the fire. Let's learn what Rashbi is, and then come back, and then I want to see the fire. Back in. We want to participate. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Hey, Rabbi, keep giving me the share. I'm sorry for disturbing.
Beautiful.
We got to cover, Rabbi. Mr. Dayat, say hello.
So you know, amazing. Rashbi, beautiful. Rashbi is inside each one of us. When you say that if you can activate the Rashbi inside you, if you can activate Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai inside you, then you're able to bring out and to introduce who you are to. But how does a simple Jew living in Ikvas Ad Mashiach, a simple Jew today, we're not Terasa Umnusay. How do we get to this level of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, who's able to learn, and his learning itself is able to bring down the rain? The story is coaching us, in fact, how to emulate Rashbi and how to rise above the Golus. And not just to rise above the Golus, but to bring rain down to the world around us. Because when we can rise above the Golus, we can be like Rashbi, it's able to rain down on the entire world around us. So first and foremost, let's understand how you accomplish Terasai Umnusai. How do you get to be a Rashbi who's dedicated solely and utterly and totally to Torah? When Rashbi immerses himself in Torah, nothing else exists. You know what it means to be able to do that? I don't know what it means to be able to be Terasai Umnusai. But I do know what it means to learn and to immerse myself in learning. You know, when you learn, what happens is you have these distractions, and it's too easy to forget and to move towards something else. And then you forget completely whatever you were doing before. Have you ever learned and there's a phone next to you and you're not looking at the phone, but the fact the phone is near you is a distraction? And then when a family member comes and knocks on the door and he's like, Tati, I want to talk to you. I want to chat. And you say, I'm in the middle of learning. He doesn't get it because you're not really engrossed and immersed in the learning. Terasei Umnusai to Jews and people like us would mean the ability to immerse ourselves in Torah. Take a moment in the day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever you're going to do. And for that, chunk of time, what you do is you say, I'm going to engross myself in Torah, and I'm going to create a Torah consciousness in that moment to the extent and to the point that nothing else exists, and I'm carving out a point in time. And in this point in time, I am Torasoi Umnusoi. In this little point in time, nothing else exists but the Torah learning that I have. And that means not just to a guy who's learning in Koilel, not just to a guy who's a yeshiva bacher, to a younger man, to any person. There needs to be a time in our day when we completely engross ourselves in Torah. And what does this benefit us? We all live in a state of golus. Now, again, we were speaking before, what exactly is a state of golus? What is an exile state? It's when you're distanced from your culture and from your land and from who you are. So, golus presents us, when we live in golus, it presents us with it takes away our culture. A Yid is bound to the Eibishter. A Yid wants to be connected to God by his very nature. What happens is, as he arrives in Golus chips and chisels away at your relationship, at your inner truth, at what you are. You ever noticed how Golus takes over our lives? How being in exile means that you become an American. You live in America, you become an American. You live in Israel, you become an Israeli. You become whatever the culture around you is. And you see it when you have a phone next to you, and suddenly you're desperate for that phone, and you're unable to survive without that phone. That's because the Golus has got me. I'm part of the culture that I'm in. Rashbi is terasoi umnusoi. It's the ability that a person can have to immerse himself in a Torah consciousness, in a relationship with God where Torah becomes your inner true being of who you are and what you are about. And when you do that, Rashbi, when he's able to accomplish that, what happens is the byproduct is they come to him and they say, Rebbe, we need rain. We need rain. Rain is Geshem. Geshem is the general term for Gashmias, for physicality. Rebbe, we need Gashmias. And what does Rashbi say? When you say you need Gashmias, Rashbi comes along and he says, if you want L'chaim Avrumi, if you want the Gashmias, if a Yid wants to appreciate the Gashmias, what he needs to do, Chaim Leracha, when you dedicate yourself and immerse yourself in a Torah consciousness, then you're able to overcome that sense of Golus, Chaim. So look at this. Each nation that conquered us throughout history, each nation that conquered the world and conquered Bnei Yisrael, gave us a different level and a different appreciation of a new type of Golus. There is a story that's brought down in Sefer Daniel. The story was that Nebuchadnezzar, who was the first king, he's the king of Bavel. Nebuchadnezzar became the king. Nebuchadnezzar goes to sleep one night and he has a dream. And he wakes up in the morning and he tells his advisors, he says, I need you to tell me what my dream was and interpret it. So the advisors tell him, Paro in Mitzrayim, he didn't know what the interpretation of the dream was, but at least he knew what the dream was. You don't even know what the dream is. And nobody was able to figure out the dream. So he told all the Chaitomim, all the advisors, I'm going to put you to death because you can't figure out the interpretation of my dream. One of those advisors was Daniel. And Daniel asks Aryeh, he says to him, do me a favor, he asked the executioner before he's about to be executed, tell His Majesty I'll interpret his dream for him. And he comes over to Nebuchadnezzar and he gives him an interpretation of the dream. And it goes like this. He tells him what the dream was and what the interpretation was. And this dream is the Yesoid, the foundation of what Golus is like. Here's how it goes. There was a monster. If you ever wonder where Hollywood gets its effects from, we'll look at the Sefer Daniel. There was a monster who came to meet Nebuchadnezzar in the dream. The monster had a head made of gold, a torso and arms made of silver, a stomach and thighs made of copper, and feet, the calves were made of steel. And he says, and this monster scared Nebuchadnezzar in the middle of the night. Comes Daniel and he tells him the interpretation of the dream is as follows. The head of gold, that refers to the Babylonians who conquered the Jews. Then the Medes, the Madai, Paras Madai, conquered Babel, will conquer Babel, it's future. That's the arms of silver, of kesef. And then you have the upper foot, the thigh, that's Yavon, that's Greece, who conquered Persia, Paras Madai. And the thighs at the bottom are Rome. And Daniel tells him, these are the 4 Goliaths, the 4 exiles that Bnei Yisrael are going to go through. And the crown on top of the monster, the Keser, that refers to Mitzrayim, which is the first Golus. And he says, Nebuchadnezzar, you should know that Bnei Yisrael are taken out to Golus, and the head of the Golus is you. You're a classy Russia, if you will. You know what you're doing. You know how to be a Russia. So you are the head, which is made out of gold. Then there's the body, which is made out of silver, and that's Parasumadai, a little less classy. And as you go down, it becomes brass, copper, and then all the way down, the Romans have no class at all. The Romans are just plain and simple steel. And that's how we live today. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai cites this idea from the Gemara, from the Sefer Daniel. And in Gemara Megillah, Daf Chavtes Amud Aleph, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says as follows. He says, Tanya, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Oimer. We learn in the Bryce, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says, Boy urei kama chavivin Yisrael lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Come and see how dear the Jews are before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shebechol mokim shegalu, wherever they went to exile, Shechina Yimoyim, the Shechina follows them. Galu leMitzrayim, Shechina Yimoyim, they went to Egypt, the Shechina goes with them. Shenamer hanigloi nigleisi leveisavicha b'yosem mitzrayim. Shmuel Hanavi says, I revealed myself to you when you were in Egypt. Galu leBavel, you went to Bavel, Shechina Yimoyim, the Shechina goes with you, and he quotes a pasuk for that too. And one day, the Jews are going to get out of Galus. And at that point, V'shav Hashem elikecha es shvuscha, God goes back with you, and he escapes the Galus together with you. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai mentions a pasuk for each time we go out into Galus. In fact, the same Gemara is quoted in the Yerushalmi, in Gemara Tainis. There it says also, Tani Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, he says, he enumerates more levels of Galus. He says there's the Babylonian Galus, and there's the Galus of Parasamadai, and there's the Persians, and the Galus of the Greeks, and the Galus of the Romans. And then the Shechina goes out with you. Each time we are exiled to a different nation, it's a different type of Galus, a different state of Galus. And our neshama never succumbs to any type of Galus, but the body of a Jew fell down into Galus. The guf, the body, when you get into Galus, he thinks he needs to be the same as all others. Galu leMitzrayim, when you go down to Mitzrayim, the body wants to be a Mitzri. Went to Bavel, we want to be Babylonian. You go to America, the guf wants to be American. Comes Rashbi and he says, if you follow my path, Rashbi says, Yechailani liftor sa'olam kuloi minadin. I can save the entire world from all time, from judgment. That's not a statement of someone who said, of a holy man who said something. Rashbi is actually giving us the power. If you follow my path, which is called Teirasoi Umnusoi, to be able to gain a Torah consciousness and to be able to view life through the lens of Torah, then you can escape every galus, no matter where you go. If you work the Nakuda, if you work the Pintare, the point that Rashbi is giving you, you're able to draw the Shechina out of any galus. And how do we do this? You do this by shifting your view of the world. So every time as you immerse in Torah, as you allow yourself to close your phone, to shut yourself up from completely every other reality, the realities around you cease to exist, and you're able to experience that relationship with God, that incredible moment of relationship with God. Every galus leads us in a different direction and seeks to bring us down in a different way. And I want to give you an example of how this works. You know, the first Rashi on the Chumash says that when God created the world, his purpose in creation was Bereishis Bishvil Yisroel or Bishvil HaTorah. God created the world for the sake of the Jew and for the sake of Torah. every single Jew throughout Golus would be aware that the real reason why God created the world is for the sake of the Jew and for the sake of Torah. So that means, you know how when you go to a wedding, have you ever gone to a wedding, pre-corona weddings, and you don't even know who the chassan and kala are? You ever gone to a bar mitzvah and the bar mitzvah bacher really means nothing in this? It's all about his wealthy father and everyone's coming for him. And nobody even notices there was a chassan and kala. But at the end of the day, the bar mitzvah is the ikar. And the chassan and kala are the ikar, the main point. In this world, Rashi tells us, there may be so many forces about, but the real force, the core of everything, is Yisroel and Torah. The ability of a Jew to keep Torah. So no matter what powerful nations there are around you, the Babylonians, the Persians, the Medes, the Greeks, the Romans, the Americans, the goal of it all is the Jew in the middle. And a Jew needs to be able to say that clearly. Now I'll give you two examples of where we fall into a state of Golus. One is the Israeli Golus, and the other one is the American Golus. And we'll see how through the power of Rashbi and Terasai Nusai, we can actually escape and rise above that state of Golus. First example is in Eretz Yisrael. You know, there are those who hold that when the state of Israel came into being, we now finally escaped Golus. We were in Golus for 2,000 years. We didn't have a state. And now, Baruch Hashem, God gave us, through tremendous miracles, He gave us a state. So now we were able to get out of Golus. And we look at that as Aschalta de Geula, as the beginning of Golus. In a certain way, never before in history have we been more in a state of Golus than we are now in the state of existence of Eretz Yisrael. Why? When a Jew walked around in the shtetl and he met a policeman, what did he think of the policeman? He knew one thing about this cop, that this guy had absolutely no one on top of him. That whatever this policeman decided to do to the shtetl Jew, no one would tell him what to do. There was no law and order anywhere. And so every Jew was petrified of the cop. He walked out, he had every reason to be scared of the policeman who's around him. And so he was petrified of the guy, and he was worried about him. But today, if you have a state of Israel, you would think there'd be no reason to be afraid of anybody. You would think that a Jew would be proud. And yet, have you noticed one problem that we all, and Israelis, we all have it? What's the problem? An inability to say the truth. Ask Eretz Yisrael to say out, what is it that makes Eretz Yisrael? Well, that God gave it to you. Not a UN partition plan, not anything else. That God gave it to you. Bishvil Yisrael or Bishvil HaTorah. Yet Jews in Israel sit around and are petrified and worried about what are the goyim going to think and who's this? Did you know that in 1936, Ben Gurion stood up in front of Lord Peel? There was a commission to figure out who the land belongs to, the British Commission. And Ben Gurion sat, he took a Bible, he took a Tanakh, and he brought it in his hand and he said, Your Honor, we Jews claim the land by virtue of this book. Do you see how when you're unable to say that, even Ben Gurion at that moment at least was able to say it, when you're unable to state your point with crystal clarity, so what happens is you have now fallen into a definitive state of Golus, because Golus now became who you are. Rashbi, what's the power of Rashbi? When a Jew has Teirasai Nusai, when a Jew makes Torah his consciousness, when he's able to allow the Torah to become his true being of who he truly is, and that becomes his consciousness, that becomes his reality, no longer does he succumb, no longer does he fall to the forces around him. Similar in America. America, you live here, right? There's a certain clipper. It's quite incredible how we all have it. Did you notice that in America, it doesn't make a difference? Money is a god. And it makes no difference what you do with the money. The goal of money is simply to have money. There's no point to it. The goal of money is you live in America and you want to make $1 billion. What's the difference between $1 million and $1 billion? No one in America can explain. But we Jews living in America succumb to the times, to the forces around us, and we live in a state and we say, okay, I need to make money. Why do you need to make money? You have enough money to live already. You know, the Gemara says you can only wear 18 items of clothing at a time. And yet, so if you have money to buy 400 clothing, but you can't wear it at that time, you can't live in more than one house in a night. And yet there's somehow this this need that we have to make more money, to make more zeros. Why? So you can go to the bank and get another loan. Guess a guy feels good. He has a driver. So he sits in the back of the car and he's got a driver and he wants the world to know that I have a private driver. Almost as if to say that that private driver on its own has some kind of koyach. Can you see what it means to be living in a state of golus? To be living in a state of golus means that we allow external, extraneous forces to overpower us. We allow the other forces to change our way of thinking. Comes Rashbi and he says, when you go out into golus, the Shechina goes with you. And when you focus on the fact that the Shechina went out to golus, and you say, I'm going to bring the Shechina back home, then you are now rising above the golus. Rashbi was able to rise above the golus. It says that bifnei Rashbi lo nechra b'bayis. To people the likes of Rashbi, the Beis Hamikdash was not destroyed. There was no Churban Beis Hamikdash. Why? Because the likes of Rashbi are people who can rise above the golus. How do you and I get there? By following the path of Rashbi, by being a person who's teirasoi umenusoi. A person engages in a Torah consciousness. This is not about being a masmid. This is not about learning extra. It's not about more learning. This is about being in a state of consciousness of Torah. So what happens is when you're able to lock yourself up and immerse yourself in the Vort of Torah and allow nothing else to exist at that moment, the world doesn't exist. My wife, my kids, my children, my business, my phone, most important of all, just doesn't exist. I don't engage in anything else. The ability to carve out such a moment in time allows a person to transcend the confines of golus. Because if you can tell, if you can look your own life in the face and say, listen, I know I'm into luxuries, I need all these things, but for one moment, as he says in Tanya, when a person's able to experience the sense of oneness, this moment of communion, just for one moment to feel a God consciousness, to feel like, I don't need money, I don't need anything else. I'm just in a state of consciousness of me and God together. I really, really think that this Corona time is affording us this opportunity. I mean, I'll take an example of right now, of a Lag Bomer. Now, I would love to be sitting with a Chaver right now, around the fire, all together, to be able to Fabrengen. That's the beauty of it. But you know something? When you're with the Chaver, and when you're around, and you're just a bunch of guys together, so in a certain way, you don't get in touch with your own self. You're never forced to discover your own inner soul, your own inner being, because there's so many distractions and so much else going on. When you're on your own, Lag Bomer comes along, you're like, okay, so what is Lag Bomer? Like, I can't just sit there and sing by myself. It's not easy, and Zoom doesn't allow good singing. Maybe we'll do some later. But so what is Lag Bomer? What's the truth of what Lag Bomer is about? Well, let me learn the Torah of Lag Bomer. Let me immerse myself in the moment. And so let's try to do this now for a few more moments. Carve out a moment in Zoom right now. Carve out a moment and say, in this moment now, nothing else exists. It's about being present, being completely present within the Torah that we learn. Because our lives are chiseled at by multiple forces from outside. The outside forces say, you need to accomplish this. You need to go make money. You need to get more zeros in your bank account. You need to be busy. You need this. You need that. That state of mind is a state of golus. I challenge any one of us. I always wonder, if I were put quarantined in a cave for 13 years, what would I do? Just being there, him and his son, with no books even. What was he doing, Rashbi, in the cave? This quarantine allowed him to connect to his own inner being, to discover who he truly was, to be able to rise above the golus. And that's what it means that bifnei neshamas, like Rashbi, the Pelech Hariman says, there was no churban. How do you escape golus? It's not that the Shekhinah goes down with you and the Shekhinah goes up with you. It's that when you bring the Shekhinah back out of golus, V'shav Hashem Elikecha es shavuscha v'richamecha. Not v'heshiv, doesn't say God will return you. It says V'shav Hashem Elikecha, God goes back up with you. God himself is able to rise out of golus together with you. So when a Jew forces himself into the confines of Terasei Umnusei, and he says, for this moment I'm learning now, I'm learning. The world doesn't exist. Nothing. Not my children, not my family, not my phone, not my business, not even my spiritual pursuits. Nothing exists. If I can enter into that moment, that's a Rashbi moment. That's a moment of transcendence above Golus. Now for that moment, nothing else exists. And if I can get to that experience, so now they come to Rashbi and they say to him, they implied to him, the world needs rain. There's many things we need in the world. Try this out. Have you noticed that when a person has a need, he needs a shidduch, he needs money, he needs health, any one of the wonderful things and important things that we need. When a person has a need, so he goes and he davens for it and he begs Hashem, please give it to me, please God. There's another approach, the approach of Rashbi. That approach is valid. Choyni Amagel did it, he davened to Hashem. Rabbi Akiva did it, he davened to Hashem. But Rashbi took on a completely new approach. Rashbi said, okay, here's what a human being needs. Tzricha ol melemitra, the world needs rain, the world needs geshem. But there's something far greater that the world needs. The world needs you to discover a God consciousness at its epicenter. And if you, as a Yid, are able to enter that communion of God with Torah and avoid and refrain and move away from your gashmiistic needs and issues, then the Zohar story is, the result of that is Asa Mitra, that the rain comes down. There's all needs that we have. You need money. So what's the best way to get the money? Rashbi's way. You have a need in mind. You enter into the communion of God, the Torah consciousness. You realize that God is really controlling the world and everything comes from God. You know what happens to you at that point? The reason why I need the shidduch is because of me. It's my ego and my need for the shidduch. As soon as I enter into that consciousness, that God consciousness, I let go. I let go completely of all my needs. And now I come back and I say, oh, the reason why we need a shidduch is because God wants it to be a shidduch. No pressure and no stress. That's the key. Like Bomer in Corona is exactly that. Like Bomer in Corona is a quarantine experience of Rav Shimon ben Yochai. It's an ability to sit on your own and just engage in a relationship with the Borei Olam, with the Bashefer, and to say, God, I'm entering into a zone together with you. It's a physical zone. You take a Blat Gemara, you take a Maimer Chasidus, whatever you're going to learn. It's the most beautiful thing one could ever do, to close out, to shut the world off completely, and to engross yourself in it. You take your tsaros, which were there a moment before. I need this, I need the money. And you immerse in the Torah. And in that point of immersion in the Torah, the world ceases to exist. And as the world ceases to exist, what's happening to you is you're undergoing a transformation whereby now you can start seeing the world in a completely new light, in the way God created it. Because when God creates the world, Rashi says it was Bishvil Yisroel or Bishvil HaTorah. Then you stop stuttering. I believe it was Rav Kook who once said, he said Al Derech HaTzachos, in a way of, in jest. He said, you know why the Jews are still around after so many years? Look, all the other nations, all these other great nations came and went. The Babylonians, where are they? The Persians, the Greeks, where are they? The Romans, they are all in colosseums. And the Jews are sitting in Fabrengen on Lag Bomer. A small little nation, looked like nothing, sitting on that Zoom, Fabrengen, because it's Lag Bomer. Why are the Jews still here? He said, because every other nation walked onto the stage of history, made a crystal clear point, did their spiel, they played their play, and then they walked off the stage of history, and they disappeared. The Jewish people never made their point. They never walked onto the stage of history and said their point. The Jewish people get on the stage and they stutter. They're not able to express the truth of who they are. Did you ever see an Israeli Jew for many years? Baruch Hashem, I think it's changing now a little bit. But did you ever see how they go in the United Nations? How they make their point? Why the land belongs to us? Because there was a partition plan in 1947, because of all the wonderful reasons out there. Stuttering and unable to make a clear point. Rashi makes a clear point, a point of terasai umnusai. He says, the reason there's a world, the reason everything exists, Bereshis, bara, elikim, es hashamayim, ve'es haaretz, the reason there's a world. Beis Reshis, bishvil Yisroel, or bishvil HaTorah. You know that Rashi lived during the Crusades. Rashi suffered from the Crusades. He was persecuted. Rashi knew what persecution was. We know the Germans of today. Rashi knew the Germans of then. He lived in the same place, and he had that same experience from them. And the same Rashi who knew what the fight of the Crusades was. Rashi says, I want every single Jew to know. Rashi is a classical. When you learn Rashi, you know it's something meant for every single Jew to know. Every 5-year-old, the first thing that he gets taught is this. Is that once upon a time, the land of Israel everything was created by God. God took the land and he gave it to the nations, and then he took the land away from the nations and he gave it to the Jews. And if one day, and if the Goyim tell the Jews, you are thieves, because you conquered the land of the 7 nations. So the Jews tell them back, everything belongs to God. He wanted to, he gave it to them. He wanted to, he took it away from them, and he gave it to us. The land belongs to the Jew. The land belongs to the Jew. Why? Because of the power, the might of God. Do you see the Jew making a clear point? He's no longer stuttering. He's saying the point like it is. Living in a state of Golus, living in a state of Geula, doesn't mean you have a land and now you're in the land and behaving like a Golusdika person, like a Golusdika mentality. Living in the land means that you live in the land, that your experience in the land is different. But it's very nice to talk about the Israelis, it's politics, it's wonderful. It applies on a very individualistic level. Bifnei Rashbi, Loi Nechrav Habayis, the Baal HaTanya says. To Rashbi, the Beis HaMikdash was never destroyed. Our neshamas were never taken into Golus. The body was. The body gets lost. The body forgets as it gets into Golus. The body wants to become American. And each one of us succumbs and we fall into it. And what's the power of getting out of Golus? Getting out of Golus is allowing the power of God to dominate my life so that I don't succumb to the social norms and culture that's around me. I'm able to rise above it. And take a look at yourself, at myself. And I ask myself when it comes like Bomer, am I Terasa Yom Nusa? Is Torah where I get my sustenance from? If I do, I wouldn't fear. I wouldn't be afraid of all the whims that go on around me. I'd be able to live a life of emes, a life that stems from within, a healthy life. Not a life where I'm chasing my tail, running for the next luxury and the next dollar and the next zero in my bank account for absolutely no reason. when a Yid realizes what Daniel sees in Nebuchadnezzar, he says there's a monster. The monster is, the whole Golus is a monster. The whole Golus is a golden head and a silver body and a copper torso and the feet of steel. And when you realize the whole thing's one big monster. But Rashbi says, Rashbi says, I can take the whole Golus, knock it out in one fell swoop. What am I going to do? I'm going to come to a realization that I'm not limited by Golus. I'm going to stop stuttering. I'm going to look Golus in the face, and I'm going to say, my soul did not succumb to Golus. Every time you and I sit and engage in a complete, in letting ourselves go into the Torah, we're able to rise above that Golus. And it's funny, it's almost humorous to look at an American Jew, to look at myself and to realize, you ever see what, like, you look in your bank account and you just want to know how much money do you have. You don't need to use it, you don't care, you just want to know how much money do you have in your bank account. Once upon a time, a Jew owned 10 donkeys and 2 horses, and his biggest aspiration was to own 12 donkeys and 15 horses. Today, it's like almost like an avodah zarah, because you live in America and you became part of the American culture. And that's what Rashbi is about. The world needs rain. The world needs rain, the world needs gashmias. How do you get the gashmias? You get the gashmias when you can rise above it. Rise above the gashmias into a connection with God. And that's what Terasa Mnusa is about. So that's the maskana, Rabotai. When it comes to a day like Lag Bomer, what is the avodah of Lag Bomer? What's the incredible moment of Lag Bomer? It's the ability that we have to transcend Golus. We're not Rashbi, we're not on the same level as Rashbi, but we certainly have the same power, and we emulate his ways by being able to take a moment to be able to lose ourselves into something higher. And when I can do that, I shine. That's the Sfira Soimer. Sfira Soimer means to refine Sfirat Omer, to refine sapphires, to sapphire, to sapphire, to be able to refine the external beings of who we are, so that we not be locked in a Golistic perspective. And that's our avodah. That's our challenge. That's the work that we all have today, to be able to rise above Golus. It's really and truly incredible to see that the Lag Bomer became a day which the whole Klal Yisrael celebrates. And I think there's no doubt about it that the reason why the celebration became so great is because here we are, about to enter the doorstep of Geula. And as we enter this wonderful, beautiful space called Geula, Geula comes about, the Geula Klolis comes about when we have a Geula Pratis. The general Geula is when we have a personal Geula. Each one of us experiences a rise above Golus. And that's our avodah today. Our avodah is to do a terasa umnusai, to be able to rise above the Golus, to experience a Torah consciousness, the consciousness of oneness with God, to realize Gashmias is a wonderful thing, beautiful. But a Jew is not limited to Gashmias. A Jew is above it. He's above the whole thing. So what I'd like to do now is to, anyone have a fire going on over there? Let's see some fires. Let's do some Rashbi, some fart. We need some Zoom dancing over here. And, you know, we didn't do this in a while, but let's hear some Fabrengen, guys. You know, at the beginning of Corona, we had Chevra on, and Chevra were talking and speaking and really inspiring us. So maybe someone could get on now and actually inspire us. Please. If you have a fire, especially. I'm going to open up, go to my fire over there and see what it is. No. Let's go. Sol Kaplan, so nice to see you. But you're muted. If you want to talk, you got to unmute. Okay, let's go. Fabrengen is when all the guys together, everyone's going to say something. No. Mati Shwende, you want to say something? Can't see most people. You can see. I say Kleiman, I can see.
Lizzie has a fire.
What? Where's David Rosnitsky? Is he here?
Lizzie Steinmetz has a fire.
Lizzie has a fire? Yeah, that's just the background. Is that real, Lizzie? me get this.
Levi.
I'm gonna go see my fire outside. Come back right now with a fire. Okay, no. If we don't, I'm gonna have to do a few more rounds of speaking. Lucy, share with us something about Lag Bomer, no?
Brother Ziegler, are you going to show us the fire?
What? Oh man, he hasn't made fire. He made a fire and now it's gone. Oh well.
On fire.
So let's sing it together. Omar Abakive, Omar Abakive, Ashreichem Yisroel. Omar Abakive, Omar Abakive, Ashreichem Yisroel. Ashreichem, Ashreichem. Ashreichem Yisroel, Ashreichem, Ashreichem. לפני מי אתם מתארים ומי מטהרכם, לפני מי אתם מתארים ומי מטהרכם. מה המקרה מתאר את חטאים, הקודש ברוך הוא מתאר את ישראל. All right, I'm back here.
Hey, Rabbi, I got a fire for you.
Who's got a fire? Penny. Nice, with marshmallows.
Not like a, Shimon, but whatever. We do what we can.
Beautiful. Okay, let's go around. Let's do this. Penny, tell us something about Lag Bomer. What is Lag Bomer? Why do we celebrate Lag Bomer? Let's do that. Ask a question, go around. Whoever wants to answer. Why do we celebrate Lag Bomer?
We celebrate Lag Bomer because Shimon changed the world. He brought in, like you said, he brought in a different type of energy into the world, a different approach, a different system. So we celebrate that.
So what does he mean to you?
The essence of a Jew, it's just the relationship with Hashem, a lot of different things. He really brought out the side, the true meaning. Like you said, the Shvot, everything in the world is created to serve Hashem, for us to be able to serve Hashem, for us to expose Hashem or to channel ourselves. There's a bunch of different ways to say it, but however each person connects to that concept, that's what it means. This is really the real deal, It's like it's getting into the reality of it, and not on the chitzonius, into the panemius of it. So, Lag Bomer is a celebration of the tzaddik that brought us that realization, that is able to draw down that after 13 years in the cave, bring that down from wherever he was able to access it and bring it to this world for the rest of us to experience it. That's the ultimate beginning of Hasidus. If you want to think about it like that. I'm gonna shut up now.
Beautiful. Yossi Kleiman, why do you celebrate Lag Bomer?
Why do we celebrate Lag Bomer? I mean, first of all, Penny just pretty much said some good words. I don't know if I could add that much to it, but I don't know. I mean, you're talking about Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. You're talking about very, very holy people, and the idea of bringing down into this world. I mean, I hope I'm not repeating what Penny said, but the idea of bringing down a lot more clarity into the world. When a person, we have the ability to connect on a much, much, much deeper level. That comes from clarity. When a person connects, gets a little bit more in touch with his inner soul. We'll call it the nefesh elikis.
Can I read?
At the end of the day, this is all coming down from the ashra of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, and he gave us the ability to have that clarity. I mean, I don't know how else to say it.
So basically, what I mean is like this: there's thousands of yard sites through the year, and through the ages, there's there's hundreds and thousands, millions, and tzaddikim galore who have yartzites. Yet nobody's yartzeit ever made it, ever in history, to the level of Rashbi. Nobody. And he's a holy man, he's amazing, but why is that? Why? Right? What was so unique about him specifically? And why is it important to celebrate the yartzeit b'chlal? That's really the point.
Why his yartzeit b'chlal?
Why a yartzeit? Why by him a yartzeit, and why him?
It's a good question.
Maybe Moshe Silva. What did your daughter say? She asked you the question. Simple question. Right? Why? Like why? I mean, the mole. On Shavuos we receive the Torah. That's a big day. And Sukkot, Pesach is a big day. Those are big holidays. Hanukkah is a national event. But like Bomer, I mean, whatever. Rashbi passed away. So what do you think?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Why Dafka him? What about, and on top of that, we're singing about Omer Rabbi Akiva. Why are we not singing about Omer?
Oh, we do. We have a lot of songs about him. A lot of songs about him.
But Rabbi Akiva was just as holy. I don't know if just as holy. I mean, I'm not going to say who, what, when, where, and how. It's not my place. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's many greats out there besides Reb Shimon Bar Yochai.
So just let me tell you, on a very basic level, what happened was on Lag Bomer, what really happened, what really changed was that on Lag Bomer, we received a part of the Torah which we didn't have before. When Matan Torah comes about, when God gave us the Torah, so He gave us the Torah. Now we have the Torah, and that's wonderful. But that's just the revealed Torah. We never had access to the pnimius of Torah, to the inner dimension, the inner consciousness of Torah was completely concealed from us. We never knew about it. And what happened was in Lag Bomer is that was the day, historically, that we received pnimius of Torah. The story behind it is that Rashbi wrote a book. The book was hidden after Rashbi for 1,500 years, till the Arizal, basically. But it originates in the time of Rashbi. Rashbi was the one who authored the book in the first place. And Rashbi presented the book and revealed the book on Lag Bomer. That's the story. He revealed the Zohar. The reason
so it's
why...
So it's like a little bit of a Matan Torah. That's basically.
It's not a little bit of a Matan Torah. It's the biggest Matan Torah ever. It's Matan Pnimius Torah. It's the day we receive the inner dimension of Torah, which we never knew about before. Now, how does that influence you today? Well, how does it not influence you today? Just as an example, the very fact that we can be sitting at this Fabrengen, people like us, just the whole idea is only because of Rashbi. Because think of what's necessary for this kind of experience to take place right now. It's only.
So what was before Rashbi?
What?
What was with the Zohar before Rashbi?
He
didn't make it up.
Before Rashbi was a hidden book.
So it was Torah Shabbal Peh. It wasn't written down.
It was always Torah Shabbal Peh. I mean,
I'm saying so Rashbi wrote it and the Arizal put it out.
Correct. He disseminated it. It was not something which the masses knew about.
So Rashbi is just wrote down Torah Shabbal Peh, Panimi is Torah Shabbal Peh, and he made it. He did what Rav Ashi whatever did in the Gemara.
I just want to just technically, he didn't write down anything. He transmitted and communicated it, and he ordered Rab Abba. That's what it says in the Zohar, the Chevraya Kadisha. He ordered Rab Abba to sit down on Lag Bomer and to write down his Torah. So Rab Abba was the one who transmitted it, who wrote it down.
Wrote it.
But it was by order of Rashbi. So he wanted the Torah to actually be revealed. So now you have a Rashbi who's bringing out the power of Torah. Why wasn't it revealed till 1500?
Wait a minute, but it wasn't revealed till the Arizal.
Right, why not?
So then what did Rashbi do? It was there beforehand and it was there after. We didn't get it till we should celebrate the Arizal. With this whole thought process, what does Rashbi do?
Rashbi built the foundations of Yiddishkeit in a way that took us a long time to figure out what exactly he did. It's like, imagine your parents were able to have a marriage which lasted 75 years. And today, people can't last nowhere near that long. And they didn't know how they did it. You ask them, how did you do it? They say, I don't know, I just did it. But there's a secret that they have that enables them to do it. Now imagine that one day down the road, you sit down and suddenly, you have an aha moment and you realize what the secret was and how they got to where they got. Now you discover the secret of what they were able to achieve. Yeah? The ability to discover the secret of what kept Judaism going. Rashbi revealed the secret. We didn't need the secret to survive en masse, that is, until the Arizal. So from the Rashbi, just realize the Arizal would never have come if not for the Rashbi. The Arizal was a direct product of the Rashbi.
What did the Rashbi do again? It was given over to him, Ishmael Piash.
Right.
And now he just told someone to write it down.
Well, he revealed secrets in the world that were never there before. He was Megala the secrets. Secrets were never there before. So there were things which remain hidden to mankind. And Rashbi takes those secrets and he's Megala them into the world. He makes it real in the world. He enables you. What?
I'm not sure I get it. He passed it down to the next, again, not publicly. It wasn't for the public when he did it. The public first got it by the Arizal.
Right.
So what did, again, before that, Rashbi got it from whoever he got it from, Rebbe Kiva, whoever he got it from. And every generation they gave it over Ishmael Piash. And it continued that way. So what did he change?
Rashbi?
Yeah. You understand what I'm saying or no?
Yeah. The world is sometimes unable to receive the power that is behind it. So the world's not able, it's not a keli to receive the koyach that's being communicated to it.
So what did he do?
So the Arizal, the Rashbi was able to effectively take the hagshama, the coarseness of the world, and to be able to force the power of Kabbalah through into the world, which was never able to be done before. No one besides Rashbi was able to do it, meaning to be a human being and be able to be in a state of communion with God and level of Rashbi, no one before was able to do. That key nobody could do, because nobody was on a level Rashbi was, nobody was as holy as Rashbi was, and simultaneously able to be a physical normal being and be able to bring the message down to the world. So either you were holy or you were unable to communicate it down. Rashbi is someone who's able to have both together. That's the story.
Bridge that gap, basically.
What?
Like, so even so old as Canaan and everybody before him, is either Mekatza Lakatza. Either they were so holy and they had no connection to everybody else, or you're the Hamayam and you had no connection to the other way. Rashbi was the only one that was able to bridge that together, basically.
Right. Yes, that's the power of Rashbi. Now, how does he do that? That's the Zohar. The Zohar is the revelation of what that is. And then, as Bomer is saying it correctly, it was given to the masses by, depends. I mean, there's all shayla how it was given to the masses, but you're saying by Moshe de Leon. Now, Arizal systemized it like no one else before him. Yes, which means Arizal's word was mutar mitzvah legale zois hachachma. That's Arizal's word. And it's a mitzvah to reveal this chachma. Until the Arizal's time, it wasn't something for all the masses. So here's what happens. Before Rashbi, it wasn't revealed at all. It was something which you mamish had to rise to a high level. Each person on his own had to rise to the high level. Rashbi does step one. He brings it down into the world and he transmits it to his Chevraya Kadisha. But nobody else is able to get it. Fast forward all the years and they're able to get this message across through a group of holy people, Lamed Vavnikim, who are able to get it around. So now Arizal enters the scene of history. He says, now this Torah is critical for all Jews to access if all Jews are going to be connected. So the Arizal allows, it's a continuation, it's a step-by-step process of bringing the power of Rashbi down to the world. You go even further, with Hasidus is able to bring it down even further. And what happens is the fact that you and I, meaning that all Jews today are able to have any kind of connection, is only because we know about neshama, we know about the soul, we know about spirituality. That enables us to be connected. So we really the whole being of Judaism that we have is a Rashbi style Judaism. If you look at the whole message of the Zohar, the message of the Zohar is that every Jew has a neshama, every Jew is connected, and every Jew can have the Torah, and every Jew can be Torah Umnus, and all these wonderful things, which allows us mortals to be Jews like anybody else. That's the celebration. So, Mayor, why don't you talk? And Lucy also. Come on, guys.
Ramban's Kabbalah wasn't that Rashbi?
What?
The Ramban's Kabbalah. Ramban.
Yeah.
The Kabbalah that came through the Ramban. That wasn't Kabbalah through the Zohar Kodesh?
Sure, why not?
Until it came to the Moshe Kadavaro and the Chavraya Kadisha and Tzfas?
It was all, of course it was all, but the difference is that the Arizal's Chiddush was the Mutar Mitzvah Legale Zoysa Chochmah. The Ramban kept it a secret.
Right.
There's a whole shayla about the Rambam. Did he introduce Kabbalah in his Sefer or not? So the Ramban himself surely had it.
For sure, it's clear. I mean, if you read
but
it's very clear.
When you look back at there's fascinating pieces. When you look at the Ramban, right? The Ramban's introduction to the Chumash, where he speaks about how creation happened with the Chomer Hiyuli.
Right. It's impossible to understand. I mean, I can't understand it.
When you learn some Chassidus, you actually it's very simple to understand. He's talking about Olam is Bria, Tzir, and Asiyah, but in the Ramban's day, it was a hidden world. And then what happens is, in the days of the Arizal comes along and he says, "Okay, it's time to be Megaladus to everybody," and that's a process which we go through in life. And today, every Chaim Shmerel basically goes online and he looks and he types a website and he gets vertlach of ideas of Chassidus which are able to transform his whole life. That's all. That all began in Lag Bomer. That's the power of Lag Bomer. But yeah.
Why Dafka Lag Bomer? That's what they came from the Myra?
You're saying why the day of Lag Bomer?
Yeah.
So I'll give you all the reasons if you want. Number one, it's the 18th day of Iyar. Number two,
right.
It's the 33rd day of the Omer. What? Etc. So for multiple reasons, but if we keep it simple to what we're trying to accomplish, the avodah of Sfiras Omer is to be able to get connected to Matan Torah, to be able to make Torah real to us in our lives. Okay, so every day we're working on a new sphera, and every day we're trying to accomplish a brand new sphera. So the first few spheres are the foundations. The first few are Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes. Do you love Hashem? Do you fear? Do you have Rachmanus? Those are like important midas. Yeah. Then you move down and you get into the later spheres, and it's not really important, so to speak, anymore, right? Because you've already laid down the foundations. Like what's Netzach Hoid Yisod? Nobody even knows what they are. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, everyone knows. That's love and fear and compassion. But Netzach Hoid Yisod are peripheral midos. So it's similar to what happens in history. There's in history, right? When you think about Jews, so I always ask this question: if the Ramban didn't exist in Judaism, Chas v'Shalom, would Judaism be the same? If there were no Ramban, right? If there were no Rashi, would Judaism be? But if I were missing from Judaism, would there be a problem? Or if you were missing? So, I mean...
No, but now you're speaking to the uniqueness of every individual in Klal.
Yeah, exactly. But you understand that uniqueness is unique to our generation. Because in a time like ours, I'm just a regular guy. Like, I mean, I'm doing my thing, I'm trying, but Judaism would be wonderful even without me. And then there's a sphera called Hoid Shebehoid. So I sent it out in the little video today if you want to look. And we were learning it this morning in the Shia, but I'll tell you the Nakuda. The Nakuda is Hoid Shebehoid is sphera of Lag Bomer. Lucy, what's Hoid Shebehoid? You know what it is?
No.
What's the avoid of today? Hoid Shebehoid. What are you meant to be doing?
Okay.
It's an Aronakain.
Okay, so what you do?
You give shalom and everything.
Why is that Hoid?
Aaron's a fit sphere, is Hoid.
Okay, but what's the Hoid connected to Aaron? So you're absolutely correct. That is true, but let me explain to you why. Okay, hoid means hoida'a. Hoida'a is just to acknowledge. I don't understand why, I just acknowledge. That's hoid. So you say every day in davening, there's a tefillah called Maidim. What's Maidim? Maidim anachnu lach, sha'atu Hashem Elokeinu. So what does that mean? Right? Maidim anachnu, we thank Hashem. But on a deeper level, Maidim means we acknowledge. Maidim chacham levi meir. Maidim anachnu lach, we acknowledge that sha'atu Hashem Elokeinu, that you, God, are the force that operates on my life. The definition of a Yehudi is someone who acknowledges that God is the force that operates on his life. That's a Yehudi. That's Hoid. Now you have Moedim Derabanan. What's Moedim Derabanan? Moedim Derabanan is a different kind of Moedim. Moedim, what's Moedim? Moedim is we acknowledge Hashem. Moedim Derabanan is a rabbinic Moedim that was enacted, and the goal of the rabbinic Moedim was merely to say Moedim anachnu lach al she'anu moedim lach, which means I don't know, I'm not feeling it. I don't know what it means to be moedeh, but I'm moedeh that I'm moedeh. So through the ages, you have times where you have real Jews. You have the Yehudim, the moedim. Those Jews who wake up in the morning and they say, "Ah, bin Ayid," and they acknowledge they live a life of what it means to be a Yehudi. And then you have all those Jews who don't have a life of what it means to be a Jew. They don't know what it means to be a Jew b'chlal. So, like a Yehudi is moedeh to Hashem. I'm not even a Yehudi. The sphere of Hoid Shebahoid is the Yehudi of the Yehudi. I'm moedeh that I'm a Yehudi. Moedeh means I live like a Jew. Throughout the ages, there were Jews who lived like Jews. The Ramban, the Rashi, the Ritva, the Rambam, all those kind of Jews. Those are Yehudi Jews. Those are real Jews. And then there's me and you and the people around us today. And that's a sphere of Hoid Shebahoid, where the guy loses touch with what it means to be a Yehudi, but he's moedeh that he's moedeh. You get this word, Lucy? Hoid Shebahoid. I'm not a Yehudi, but I'm aware that I'm a Yehudi. So the sphere of Lag Bomer is Rashbi's addressing Jews who lost touch with what it means to be a Jew. All they have is, I'm a Jew because I'm a Jew. That's called Hoid Shebahoid. The big spheres, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, I did those already. And that's why Lag Bomer comes now. Rashbi reveals Torah to a generation like ours. He comes to people who are lowly people, who are simple, humble people, and he says, guys, I'm giving the Torah down to you. To your level, I'm giving the Pnimius Torah down to you. He appears at Sfiras Hoid Shebahoid in Sfiras on the way. Through revealing the Pnimius of Torah, we can access the depth of Torah we never knew were possible. And that allows us to be present in an incredible way. Which means, if there were no you in the Torah, you know what happens to the Torah? Hoid Shebahoid, it'll be puzzle. Because if one letter in Torah, even, never mind, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, or Shema Yisroel Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, if the word, the timna hoisa pilegesh, would be missing any little tag in it, the whole entire Torah is possible. That's Rashbi's message. That's the power of Rashbi. That's Hoid Shebahoid. That's why that's the sphere of Rashbi. That's why Lag Bomer comes about now. One reason.
The bridge to the spheres.
You know what?
It's a bridge to the spheres.
Yeah. It's where the spheres cease to be, and that's our avodah now.
So why do we have a Madura? What's the whole point of the fire? Where'd that minute come from?
Well, Luzi has a good fire behind him. That's wonderful. I'm feeling part of me right now. Look at Luzi. The fire is the fire of the neshama. The fire is the Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam. Rashbi's whole point is to be able to ignite the fire of a Jew. That's what I was saying. Like, so we can't light an actual Madura now and come all together. What do you mean? You can light the Madura outside that you meant to light is only in order to light the Madura inside your heart. It's to take this flame of a Jew and to just like ignite the flame. You know, the Alter Rebbe has a beautiful lashon I was learning this week in Parshas Emor in the Likutei Torah. He says the reason why you daven every morning is because you have a little tiny flame inside your heart. And when you daven, you take the flame and you meshafshef, you kind of like what's it called? You tzurach halamish, no, you whatever. You ignite the flame, you fan the flames, and you develop and you make a powerful, incredible flame, right? So when you what you're doing is the neshama is becoming a flame. That's what we have. So why are you lighting a Madura? You're lighting a Madura inside your heart. When you Fabrengen, when you talk about Lag Bomer, when you get Terasa, Umnusa, all these kind of things, it lights up the neshama, and suddenly the fire of Rashbi is able to express itself through us. That's the beauty of it.
Beautiful, very nice.
Yeah. And yeah, Baruch Hashem, we're able to pull off a parade for tomorrow. That was amazing. God willing.
What's the parade going to be?
We have trucks running around the neighborhood with musicians and with clowns on them, all social distancing and limited amount and everything, but they're running all over the neighborhood, and then they're gonna stream it live, so kids can go on, and 5 minutes later they're gonna see themselves on the screen and be able to see their friends and everybody else, you know. And Hatzalathon's putting us on also, incorporating our event here. So yeah.
What time is that?
From 2 p.m. till 7 p.m.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, that's where Rashbi is. So let me just mention in closing over here that Lag Bomer is a very powerful time. You know, it's all the Rebbes, they would go, when you want to get a bracha for children, especially in matters relating to children, time to ask always was Lag Bomer. I always try and make a point to get to the oil on Lag Bomer. I'm not sure how social distancing will be over there tomorrow, but just to get into that state, because the time for brachas, the best time is Lag Bomer. So
that's what talk about the Gemara. We're talking about the fire. That talks about the Gemara in Brachas Shabbos about lighting candles for Hanukkah. Rogel Ner Beisai is good for children. So you have the Ner of the Madura also for children.
To get you the power. Yeah. So yeah, Alti Birkas Hadid Kalabei Nechos. I'd like to give everyone a special bracha that we should all be able to experience the light and the power of Rashbi in our lives. That Corona should calm us down in a positive sense only, and should bring us to a realization and an internal realization of who we are, and the inner truth. The Terasa Umnusa should resonate with us, and we should be able to delve into the Torah, to have the ruikite, the sense of presence and the spirit, to be able to truly just to feel the power of what it means to be able to be a Yid. When you learn Torah and you shut the world off, the Jew and Torah connect, and Bishvil Yisroel and Bishvil Torah, and suddenly the Jew discovers his own self. And no doubt, when we experience that in ourselves, that has an effect on our children, that has an effect on our families, and is able to inspire all around us. And that Geula Klalis is able to subsequently translate in, the Geula Pratis is able to translate into a general Geula Klalis, which everyone else can benefit from. So L'chaim Yidden, I will go upstairs and get my L'chaim, but I'll do it soon. L'chaim. Oh.
Lizzie, what you got over there, Lizzie?
Hold on, wait 1 second. I want to say L'chaim with everybody. Don't run away. Give me 1 second. I'm coming back with the L'chaim.
Some sort of vodka. I figure for Lubavitch or for Fabrengen, I got to come with vodka. I can't come with bourbon.
Cherry Coke, baby. Cherry Coke, that's it.
Cherry Coke. I'm tempted to drink.
But Lucy, what are you, Mavasad over there? What are you doing?
To be honest with you?
I got you busted, huh? Preparing the daf?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I'm talking about Vigla when he comes back. I didn't desire. I'm desire too, by the way.
Okay.
I told Avtar Vigla when he comes back that tomorrow's daf talks about, mentions Reb Shimon, and it says, Kol Yisroel b'nei Melachim him.
Right.
Vigla, I was saying that tomorrow's daf mentions Reb Shimon. The famous line of Reb Shimon that says, Kol b'nei Yisroel b'nei Melachim him.
Kol Yisroel b'nei Melachim.
Did you hear?
What did you say, Lucy? What's the line?
I said tomorrow's daf mentions Reb Shimon. Tomorrow's Lag Bomer, it mentions Reb Shimon, and the line of Reb Shimon that it mentions is Kol Yisroel b'nei Melachim him.
You know that the Alter Rebbe says that in every single parak in Shas, Reb Shimon's name mentioned. Rabbi Pred and I once tried to figure it out because we found a couple that not, but the Alter Rebbe says in every parak in Shas, the name Reb Shimon is mentioned.
I think because the Mishnayos is different than the Gemara, that's why. The Parakim.
Parakim different, whatever. Anyway, I got my L'chaim over here. Oh, Danny Russo's there.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. L'chaim and Ivracha. L'chaim.
Sal, you have your L'chaim, Sal?
Sure.
Oh, L'chaim.
I was worried, Sal.
Yeah, listen, that's a Zoom about.
Yeah.
That's the power. L'chaim, that we should be able to.
You can't drink alone.
You've been doing it for the last 2 months.
So that's why Zoom.
Yeah.
L'chaim Ivracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shakol niyah b'dvarei.
Amen.
If anyone wants, we have every morning 7 to 8 we learn Nikutei Torah, followed by Daf Yomi. Naftali Demitzer gives on Zoom, same place.
Beautiful.
What time is the morning share?
7 a.m. over here on this Zoom, same place. 7 to 8 a.m.
Get the Nacht. Enjoy everybody.
Afreilachen.
Have a wonderful one. Have a good night.